Everyone always hears this spiel from me. So maybe it's better if they hear it from you. If I ask you the question and you answer.
Oh boy.
All right, so what is timber framing and how does it differ from other framing or construction methods? Specifically, what is mortise and tenon joinery?
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live.
Oh, here we go.
We're always live.
Timber framing is taking large square timbers, joining them together with joinery. I don't know how to put this really simply, but there's a bunch of different joints, and so the wood is interlocked together, and then once the joint is put together, then that joint is locked in, usually with some sort of wedge or a wooden peg.
Yeah, that's a great explanation. I tell people wherever there's wood on wood connection, there's some puzzle piece joinery holding it together. It's held together with white oak pegs. There's no butt joints, like just held together with screws or anything like that. Mm-hmm. It's a dovetail. It's a mortise and tenon, which is just the tenon is the protruding element and the mortise is the receiving. The tenon goes into the mortise. Yeah, that's timber framing in a nutshell, basically. What does it mean to CNC cut timbers? And what does it mean to hand finish? What are the tools that we use for that?
Well, the CNC takes the bulk of the cutting as far as shaping the joint, as opposed to us drilling out by hand a pocket, say that big and that deep. Instead of us drilling that out, we can have a machine do that much for us, and of course the machine is using spinning tooling, so stuff that looks like really fancy drill bits with tons of little cutting teeth on them, and so that spinning tool usually leaves an arc where there maybe should be a square corner. You'll have a radius of wood left. So if we have a square tenon that needs to go into a square pocket, then we need to chisel out those corners. So that's where the hand finishing comes in, is picking up what the machine can't do. And we're also going over these timbers, finishing those joints and those pockets by hand allows us the chance to look at the timber and pick up on any blemishes or mistakes that that could have been overlooked if it was completely done by a machine, let's say.
I'll just add that with the machine, garbage in, garbage out. If it's a bad design, the machine will still cut it. It doesn't care, but it might be really difficult to assemble, or it may just be too thin of a tenon or not the right type joint, like a dovetail, and maybe it should be a mortise and tenon. So really, design is more important than ever, because there's not going to be maybe the carpenter on the shop floor who's seen this design or seen a joint like 100 times and can look at something and say, no, that doesn't look right. So really it shifts the burden of joinery really from the carpenter to the designer, which is an interesting change there.
Yeah, and the design, like you said, that's really the strength of the timber frame is more dependent on the design versus who or what is cutting the joint. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a tight joint is going to be way stronger than a loose fitting joint, but we can get pretty tight joints with a CNC machine. Mm-hmm. And yeah, the design, that's really where the strength lies, is what you're saying, right?
Yeah. And one of the benefits of being a small company with a CNC operation is now we can actually spend more time in design to really dial both the joinery and the look that the client is going for. Because the machine is so fast and so accurate, we have saved ourselves so much time that we can now partially redevote to design. We have a project we finished up a couple months ago that was very complex, one that would have taken months to cut by hand. In fact, some of those joints, because of the angles and such, they may not have even been able to be cut by hand, where you've got compound valleys on a multi-pitch roof. Mm-hmm. I'm sure they could have been cut by hand, but it would have been almost time prohibitive. So the CNC is a big advantage there. But we iterated on that design for months in preparation for it. So it's a big step change, I think, for us in terms of the quality we're able to deliver and the way we're able to devote our time to the client now instead of to the craft, which is a little bit of a strange thing to say, but it's really, I mean, that's the truth. We can spend more time thinking about how something is going to be both designed and put together versus spending all of our time in the shop or being limited by what the guys can cut in the shop.
Yeah, like you said, if the CNC gives us an edge, so to speak, on the types of joints we can cut and the complexity of the joinery, that's still a win, I think.
Oh yeah, it's a win for both us and the customer, honestly.
Yeah, design capability goes up.
Yeah. All right, so what's the difference between the wood species that we use and which species are good for different types of projects? This is a great question. I get asked this on every single phone call.
Yeah. Well, you might be able to answer it better than I do then.
Well, I'll take a crack at it. So we offer Eastern White Pine, Douglas Fir, and White Oak. And I put them in that order for a reason. Eastern White Pine is the least durable, but it's the most cost-effective. It has more of a cabin feel because it has a lot of knots. It has more of a...
it's very warm.
It's very warm. It's more rustic. It's a very light colored wood. Second up from that is Douglas Fir. Douglas Fir is imported from the West Coast. It's very strong. It has a great strength to weight ratio, so you can often get away with smaller sized timbers for the same span, in which case in an Eastern White Pine you would have had to upsize the timber. It has a red hue to it, and it takes a finish very nicely, just like Eastern White Pine does. And it is more durable than Eastern White Pine, but it's still considered a softwood. So at the top of the ladder, you've got oak. So we offer white oak. This barn is white oak. White oak is unmatched in durability unless you're maybe importing from South America or Africa, some crazy exotic hardwood. It's unmatched in durability and strength. It's really the gold standard of timber framing. Many old barns you see in Europe, tithe barns specifically from the 1100s, 1300s, those are all made with white oak. Or red oak, but mostly white. So that's going to be top. On each tier, there's different applications. So if you have a completely enclosed structure and cost is more of a driving factor in the project, I'd say Eastern White Pine. It looks great. If it's enclosed, it's going to be protected from the bees and everything like that.
Yeah.
Great choice. If you are doing a commercial application or you want a structure that looks very clean, very few knots, but you do want some of the cost savings, and or you like the reddish hue of Douglas Fir, which can be very appealing, that Douglas Fir is perfect for that. If you have an outdoor structure or you want the old time feel, oak is great for outdoors. It's good for indoors too. The grain pattern is so tight that when it checks, as you'll see in this barn, it's a lot of small slivers versus Eastern white pine or Douglas fir, where when because they're softwood, when they check, the growth rings are wider apart. The checks are a little bit more visible and large. Throw the caveat out that the checking is accounted for in our engineering. So if you see checking on the timber, that's not a cause to worry at all. A lot of people don't know that. They think, oh, my timbers are cracking, the building's going to fall down. No, not at all. Checking is more of a surface phenomenon. So, yeah, those are the 3 species that we offer, and that's a general rundown of when they're good and when they're great. So, yeah.
It may be worth mentioning. Do we always see Douglas fir as a cheaper option than oak? Because I know some in later projects we've sent out, it's like sometimes the Douglas fir is actually more expensive, right?
It depends. So for a minute there, I think it was partially driven by tariffs, because a lot of the Douglas fir that we get comes from Canada. I'd love to get it from the U.S., but the reality is even West Coast mills are probably buying it from British Columbia. So a lot of the Douglas fir comes from Canada. So I think the tariffs might have had a little bit of an effect there.
Oh.
There's 2 tiers to Douglas fir as well. In fact, there's several tiers, but to keep it simple, we'll just go kiln dried and green. For certain applications, kiln dried, if it's going to be stained, if it's an interior product, if there's zero movement, because all timbers move, if there's zero movement required, Douglas fir may be selected, and that is on par with oak usually in terms of cost. The green is a little bit less than oak though. All right, what does a raising day look like? What are the steps and routine that we go through?
I think there's a lot of excitement in the air on raising day. You got a pile of bents and big cranes show up. I don't know. It's like we're about to make this happen.
Yeah.
It's exciting. So, yeah, raising day. We shouldn't be like running around checking our layout. That should be done.
Yes.
That should be done well in advance. But we've usually got things laid out to where we know what's going up first. We've got our bracing material ready to brace that first piece that goes up, or several pieces. Well, I guess let me back up. First, the crane guy sets up his crane, and he gets situated and makes a few test runs, and once we're ready, the crane operator just starts picking, and we tell him where to go. And
what kind of tools and equipment do we use during the raising day?
A lot of rigging, a lot of straps, and lifting straps and associated things with that to lift the heavy timbers up over any obstacles and then down on their landing spot. Definitely use hammers.
Yeah, lots of hammers.
To drive pegs in, and I would say nudge or bump things into place. They need a little persuasion sometimes.
Yeah.
Getting joints locked in and pegs driven in. It's a lot of communication over two-way radios, hand signals, but it's an exciting time.
It really is. Yeah, just to add to that a little bit, over the years, we've developed our arsenal quite a bit in terms of tools that we have specific to timber framing. So we started out with ratchet straps to pull stuff together because it's wood. It's not going to fit together in every single joint just perfect without a little bit of persuasion, like you said. But now we have specialized tools that just we crank it, and it draws the joints together very, very tight. We have specialized drills. Another thing on the equipment side is typically on a site, like on a raising like this, we'll have a telehandler as well. So oftentimes we might be communicating with 2 large pieces of equipment and maneuvering 2 large pieces of equipment around the site. These parallel cords and these trusses here actually took 4 pieces of equipment to get into place. We had the crane suspending the bent, and we transferred it to the telehandler, of which we have video for this. I'll have to put it in here. And we actually leaned that entire bent down about, in the pins, but down about a foot on the telehandler, and the telehandler was parked right there. And then the crane picked up one of these trusses that weighs about 3,000 pounds, got it real close, but we still had another one to go. And how do you finagle a 6,000 pound bent and 2 3,000 pound trusses in at the same time? So we had these forklifts basically that we put underneath to hold it in place, released the crane, picked up the other truss, got it into place, and pushed the bent back in with the telehandler. So it can be quite an operation sometimes to get all the pieces in place just right. But it is really fun, which brings me to Juliana's next question, which is what's the client's reaction on raising day?
Well, in my experience, they're pretty stoked.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot that goes into the frame and designing, and I think when they get to be a part of that design work and they pick out all the elements that give it a style and give it a little twist maybe here and there. For them to see that go up, and it's different than just putting a bunch of lumber together that every piece is the same. Like every single one of these pieces has a spot. Mm-hmm. So it's a unique, every piece is unique, and for the customer, I think they recognize that, and they know that a lot of thought went into this, and it's just very exciting to see it put together.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. In my experience, the clients have been, like, blown away is so overused, but they've just been, I think, awestruck by the scale once we start building it. They see it lying down on the slab or wherever, and then next thing you know, we've got a 100,000 pound crane out here that's 120 feet up in the air, and we're picking up these huge sections of timber frame, and it goes together so quick. They might go to lunch and come back, and half the barn's built. That's how raising day goes. It's a lot of prep for really 1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
And I have not been on a single project where the client hasn't been there just like, wow, I can't believe this. Even when I've even had some customers where we've built multiple timber frames for them, and still on the 3rd or 4th timber frame, they're just like, wow, I still can't believe this. So yeah, it is really exciting, and Juliana wants to know what our reactions are. I'll just go first. I feel the same way as the customer does. As long as things are going smoothly, I feel so excited, and it's a rush, honestly, to assemble. So
yeah. Is that all you had?
That's all I got.
It's a rush.
Yeah, it's a rush.
Yeah, I get excited about big equipment, lifting heavy things. There's just I don't know. There's some adrenaline there. When you're working with something that can definitely hurt you if things go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that part's fun. It's really satisfying. Like, even if it's a hard day, at the end of the day, it's still satisfying because we've spent usually at least weeks, if not months, looking at a 3D model of this thing and looking at every detail of it. And in my case, I'm sometimes the last one to look at the model and pick it apart and go, can we assemble this?
Yeah.
Or did we design something that can't be assembled? Because we got to know now.
Yeah.
Well, really, we need to know before the timbers are cut. But
Yeah.
To put it together finally, like the last project we did, that pavilion, we spent so long looking at the model, and in the model it just seems so small. It's just a 16 by 16 square pavilion, but it had a lot of decorative elements to it, and I guess maybe I just breezed over the fact that it was like 25 feet tall or something. I don't know how I missed that. We're just, I guess, looking at like post height, roof height, and I didn't add the numbers up. So like it's raising day, and we get to the first roof level, and it's like, whoa.
We got to bring more scaffolding.
Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
That part was just so exciting to see something it seems small in the model. You're just looking at it on a computer screen.
Yeah.
And then you finally get to stand underneath it, and it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
This is great.
Yeah. And it only got better and better the more stuff we added to it in the roof.
Yeah.
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 All right. So how did you first get into timber framing? I guess this is addressed to me, but you can, yeah. So how did I get into timber framing? So my background is in the merchant marine working offshore, and I saw machinery and systems and construction that was designed to resist the very hardest elements on Earth, namely salt water. And that really inspired me. The industrial scale and the quality of construction and just the foresight that went into planning construction like that inspired me to think, well, why can't I build my home to be bulletproof, durable, just not literally bulletproof, but just so durable that I don't have to worry about silly things like, I don't know, my roof leaking because I put a junky roof on there, or I don't know, I didn't want to worry about the house that I was building. So the next thing I thought is, well, I'm fortunate to have access to this property that has a lot of timber. What if I just bought my own sawmill and I cut down some of the trees and started milling? So I did. I bought a little manual sawmill. I started cutting down trees, and I just took a crack at it. And in the process of building my first timber frame structure, really my first 2 or 3 before I started doing it professionally, I just really came to appreciate the beauty, the strength, the craftsmanship of it. And those were the days when I was cutting everything by hand. And very providentially, somebody approached me in that time and said, hey, looks like you're doing cool work. Can you come try out a project for me? And that project ended up being one that really jump-started my timber frame business. And since then, we haven't looked back, and we've done a number of really large and impressive structures now. So that's how I got into timber framing, and it's got its ups and downs for sure. You may order the wrong timbers, or you may cut the joint wrong. I can't tell you how many times I've done that and had to go get another timber.
You might pick out the wrong timber and put the wrong joint on it. Yeah. That was meant for a different piece of timber.
Yep, you might do that. So that's, yeah. But
didn't
anyway.
you, your interest in timber framing, you were interested in industrial, heavy duty, well thought out planning, building, but what really drew you to the timber framing? Because I can't imagine there's timber frames on a ship.
Good question. I guess I just love the timbers. Maybe I just always have loved the timbers. The beefiness, the bigness of it.
Where did you see timber framing before? I don't know.
I grew up in a neighborhood my family was always doing some renovation construction projects, so I already sort of had a bent towards, no pun intended, towards timber, towards construction, but I had never seen timber. And And I've always been sort of the kid in my family who's like interested in the more outdoorsy stuff. And so I think combination of chainsaws, sawmill, timber, it just all sort of snowballed into, well, you can actually build like this and it's really cool and it's an old lost art.
Yeah.
So
Have you seen any like old world timber frames like over in Europe and you're traveling?
yes, since I got interested in timber framing, I spent some time in London, well, in Great Britain, and yeah, I did go visit some of the timber frames over there. They're very old. These tithe barns, it's so impressive because they built in a different way back then, where they just work with the tree. Like, they wanted a curve, okay, they go out in the woods, find a tree that had the appropriate curve in it, cut it down, and start working on it. And you can see that because, for example, in the Great Tithe Barn of, I think it's in, I forget what city it's in, but the large, what's called cruck blades that go up to carry the roof are not symmetrical. Like, one looks like a tree curve from one tree, and one looks like a tree curve together, or from another tree. But together they look phenomenal. But if you look closely at them, you can see that they're actually two different trees.
Yeah.
So it was things like that that inspired me too.
Two different trees that each grew in an arc form, but not, obviously not the same. 'Cause
Yeah.
no two trees are the same.
Right. Yeah.
That's cool.
So how did you get interested in timber framing?
Well, I had never heard of it until I met you, and when I think I was over at your house, and like you had told me that you were sawmilling, and I didn't really know that you could make a living doing that, so I was like kind of intrigued about that. And then I think the first time I came over to your place, and you're like, "This is the barn I'm building with trees I cut down over there," and I was like, "Well, that's pretty cool." I don't know what this is. I guess it kind of looks like a barn to me. I grew up as just a farm boy from the Midwest, so I guess I had seen timber framing like my whole life growing up. I didn't know that's what it was called.
Sure.
Because I've been in I don't know how many barns.
Yeah.
I just didn't know there was a name for that. And then seeing some of the stuff that you had put together really piqued my interest. And I think it's an awesome way to build. Really, it's cool. It's beautiful. That's probably my biggest draw to it, is that it's beautiful. Mm-hmm. It's like and it's beauty that lasts.
Yeah.
And it's also the kind of beauty that like it almost gets better with age. It takes on the patina, the checking, and the irregularity of it is what is beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. The beauty to me, I guess, is also the scale. Even if you build a small structure, like I started out, I think the first structure I ever built, I cut for my family. It was a 12 by 16 pavilion. And by what we're building today, that would be absolutely tiny. However, when I built it at the time, I was like, whoa, this is massive. These are 8 by 8 posts. You can't go to Home Depot and get 8 by 8 posts. Or 8 by 10s. Like when I made the jump mentally from like 6 by 6s, maybe you can get an 8 by 8 at Home Depot, but I don't think so. 6 by 6s is like the biggest standard available dimensional timber.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you could buy an 8 by 12, let alone an 8 by 18 by 30 foot long like we've got for old Natchez.
Yeah.
So that was eye-opening to me too, that there was this whole other world of construction that used different materials than what you just got from the big box store. So I think that was also appealing to me, combined with you can cut these yourself. Like, is it economically prudent? It depends. But you can cut them yourself, which I guess I've sort of always been more of a self-sufficient type guy. So that intrigued me as well.